worked with client developers before. Basically people that are on the client side and they're on the project team. Anybody? Cool. Today I'm going to talk about working with client developers and maybe share a few tips and tricks.
Yeah.
Let's just do that. This one right here?
Go with 1900.
No, good. It's 60 hertz.
60 hertz, yeah.
2 hertz.
This hurts.
Going to go. It happened today. That's awesome.
Okay. So, client desire is we want our internal developer on the project. What do you think? Seriously? Really? It's real. It's going to happen, right? I'd say at least 50% of the projects that I've been on in the last 6 months have had some sort of client developer involvement, whether or not they're contributing code directly to the repository, or they're signing off on your code, or they are essentially just providing support, on the front lines. So I'd like to talk risks, benefits, and then maybe tips. So I'm going to ask for some feedback at each point. So risks. They might have a different process than you. Maybe you're agile, maybe they're waterfall. They'll break your test all the freaking time mantra, dude. They're going to require extra communication. Maybe they're not in your shop, maybe they're remote. You're going to have to catch them up to what you've been working on. Maybe they're not even used to working in the language you're developing with, but somehow they've gotten into the project and are working on source code. It's going to take extra communication. Are you babysitting their code? Is their code up to the same level of standards that you're used to working with? What other risks have, go ahead. Deadlines. Anything else?
Personality conflicts.
Yes. Like you're cool and they're not.
Hardware.
Hardware. Cool.
Huge hardware.
Version control. Has anybody's files ever gotten overwritten by external? Cool. So benefits. Yep. They can help you get through red tape sometimes. I know working with some of our bigger clients, there's security processes and approval processes and every other kind of legal process you can imagine, and they can speed things along sometimes. I'm being very ambiguous on purpose. They might share your best practices with the other internal developers on their team. Might make your life a little bit easier later on down the road. They can speak to the project's development progress in internal meetings. It's like you increase the bus number of people that know what's going on, and therefore you can share and have a greater front to the project within their internal meetings. Other benefits. Come on, we got to be optimists here. Nothing.
Somebody to blame when something goes wrong.
Yes. So tips.
That's the only one.
I know that I try to establish expectations up front with the team that I'm working with, at least for the level of standards that we're expecting. Maybe don't break the build is one of the things you're looking to go for. Merge in master to the branch you're working on as often as possible to keep up to date with the latest code base. Be on the daily stand-up calls. If there's somebody that checks in once a week and you happen to see, a patch or random stuff coming, it's like, where is this coming from? Do you have any context of what may be going on the project enough to know the right thing to do? Pair with a client developer. So Jess and I actually worked with a remote designer who was on our project team recently, and we found that pairing really helped us get an understanding of that designer's style, their workflow, what their end goals for each day were, and where they were getting stuck. It also allowed us to share best practices with that developer, and in the end, the designer we were working with adopted a bunch of different things that we did that he thought was good. You might even forge an unbreakable bond. You just never know. So tips are appreciated. Anybody else got anything?
Tips are good, but horror stories are so much more fun to tell.
They are.
Actually, a question for you.
Sure.
How did you find it effective in terms of like pairing with a remote developer? Were you like screen sharing, or how did that work?
Done both screen sharing. So one of our developers on the client side works in Mexico, and so we screen share with him. Just did a little bit of that. Just how did one of the designers that we worked with actually came in-house at Relevance, and how did that work out?
I mean, you immediately find, so he wasn't familiar with pairing, so you immediately find when people aren't familiar with pairing that when they get, the times that when you're working by yourself you would get stuck and go read the New York Times, you don't really have that option when you're pairing with somebody, so you quickly find sort of like the bottlenecks in your process because someone's sitting right next to you like saying, okay, what's next? What's next? And so I think you, I think what you find is that you can expose some of the parts where they're uncomfortable or where they get stuck or where things break much more quickly. And as long as you're approaching this from a constructive way, it can be a really positive experience. Like, okay, let's help you through this.
I've been working with like my job for the last couple of weeks. Been working with this developer in California who's trying to learn JavaScript and VC. Well, they're trying to organize their application, and I found it really helpful to give him clear tasks, like bullet points that we're going to come back and talk about tomorrow. What we do is we get together, we talk, we work through some problems. I give him tasks. He works in the morning. We talk again the next afternoon. So it's not we're doing some remote pair programming, which is crazy. TeamViewer is awesome, but it's also really expensive, but they pay for it.
So you got like a hit list of things that you both
Yeah,
know.
we talk for we really do pair programming for about 2 hours a day, and then say, okay, this is what we accomplished, so that he has a sense of accomplishment, and then this is what I want you to work on between now and when we talk again tomorrow. And he's being a really responsible teammate in that. So
No horror stories. See? Super good. Cool.
That's
Thank
what the
you, guys.
break is for.